All right, so getting into today's show, we wanted to start with something. Really, I would like to share this, but I can't share it and do the show at the same time. What I'll do is during the break, while you guys are watching the break, I'll set this thing up so that in the Rumble audience, you can actually, I'll just go through the Twitter feed about the show. You know, I've got a Twitter feed on it, and I'll just kind of scroll through it and just kind of show you a little bit about what goes on here in the Middle East for their Grammy Awards. It's really, it's basically, I'm pretty sure it's their Grammy Awards. So let me just kind of flag this puppy. Joy Awards. And hang tight here, guys. You know, it's a radio show. We can do that. Stars in Riyadh. Joy Show. I just lost it. All right, I'll find it again. All right. You know, I don't know what's wrong with politicians. Let me just say this start with politicians. You know, we had the shooting last week. We covered it in great detail. Maybe I overdid it. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I was just perfect. It seemed like the show was very well received. In fact, it was very well received, both live and in the archives. What's fascinating about Inside the Eye Live is that we have a very good, and that's a credit to you guys again, the audience. We have a great after-market, after-show archive participation, meaning a lot of you guys and gals pick it up, because I know we have a lot of ladies listening too. You guys and gals, you pick up the show after the show and consume it at your own time, and you come back, you listen again, you know, 2-3 times you'll come back. And now that what's really cool is now that we're at Rumble, we can actually see some of the behavior of what's going on here at Inside the Eye Live. And what we're convinced is the show, if it gets in front of you, it's a pretty well-received show, which is kind of cool to know, because we never really knew that. We knew it's doing pretty good relative to archives and stuff, but it's just good to see some stats every now and then. After 15 years, I don't get a lot of stats, you know what I mean? So that's a great thing. But last week we did the show, well-received, but the issue was, really for me, two things. It was the way in which the mega influencers were pushing the narrative, and equally how the politicians, from Trump to even Holman, he came back around and kind of played the party line, Christine Neome, basically everybody, you know, they were pushing this idea. I'm going to have to sneeze. They were pushing this idea of, you know, this terrorist, this radical, and everybody can see that this woman was just a nutcase. Not really a nutcase, you know, she believes in what she believes, let her believe in what she believes. That's America at the end of the day. That is America. And what really disappointed me was all the MAGA people, because for a long time, you know, go back, and again, we've been doing this for a lot of years, you know, we used to talk a lot about the idea of something called MindWar. And MindWar is this idea that you can use your assets, your media assets, whether it's going to be terrestrial radio, the video, you know, your television shows, your cable networks, maybe put in some subliminal radio waves into the programming, and of course now digital assets, print assets, all your different media assets. MindWar was all about forcing into existence something that doesn't exist, basically. That's MindWar. In other words, you have to use your assets with such force and with such focus that people will believe what you are trying to put out there, and thus what you are putting out there excuse me, becomes real, even though it's not really real. And that's kind of what I saw happening last week, was this really high-level operation, psychological operation. Did they shoot the woman? Who knows, right? You know, we know how false flags are. They never let us inspect the body. Nobody was allowed to go over there. Nobody got to see it. Probably they did. But we don't know. The way they sold it was, you know, the lefts are terrorists, this and that. And I'm like, you know, what is wrong with MAGA? You know, MAGA is like, no, we need to push harder. We need more violence. We need to go after them. And I'm like, you know, guys, this is just a stepping stone to coming after you. You know, you haven't quite figured it out yet. It's just a stepping stone. Come on, sweetie. Come on. Come on. I got Ling Ling here. Come on. This is the chart. This is the star of the show, everybody. You guys know Ling Ling. She likes to come and play at the showtime. She's here. Okay? Come on. We're doing a show. All right, sweetie. All right? Okay, thank you. So anyways, Ling Ling is just the star of the show. She likes to hang out when I'm doing my show. So she's like, meow, you're at showtime? I'm here. I'm coming. Come on, sweetie. Yeah, sweetie, come on. She's been crazy all week. Anyways, so MindWar, I'm trying to be serious with a cat hanging on my shoulder. Thank you. So MindWar, again, is what I saw in play last week, where they're trying to put into play something that really didn't exist. This woman clearly wasn't a violent person. She wasn't somebody that was going to be, causing problems. You had all these MAGA people talking about how ICE should be able to use whatever violence they want because USC 18 USC 111 and 18111 talks about forcefully impeding, not impeding, forcefully impeding. It's more like, you're standing in somebody's way and they go to move out of your way. Then you come back and you get yourself back in their way again. And then they move a different way and you get in their way. This is the forcefully. It's not just impeding. It's forcefully impeding. And what a lot of people haven't realized, and I want to drive this home very, very clear, is that this national security presidential memorandum that everybody's working under this ICE operation, this was written basically to mirror Israeli operational policy against the Palestinians, straight up. So if you watch their behavior and you wonder why they're behaving the way they are and why they seem like so violent and so lacking any decency and common sense, look, if you come to me with an open fist, I'm not really going to be that intent on cooperating with you. It's like if you don't know how to mind your manners, if you don't have any tact, if you don't show that you're even semi-civilized, that you might have an IQ better than, let's say, 85, the idea that you can just run over, make demands, and you're basically, let's be honest, a lot of these ICE people are freaking idiots. And I'm talking about from a classical just scale of intelligence. They're not very bright. They're, they call them white niggers if you want, right? A lot of them are stupid, frankly, guys. They're stupid. That's why they have to rely on violence and intimidation. They don't have intelligence. They don't have tact. They don't have skill. They don't have training. And what you want to do is MAGA wants to turn America into having this as the status quo. It's like, there's so many smart people out in the world and they get things done. And they don't have to walk around like a bunch of morons, beating people up, forcing people, breaking their cars. I saw one video this other week, and a woman was literally sleeping in her car. Just sleeping in her car, and these freaking moron ICE agents come over and they break the window and tear her out and just rip her out of the car because she didn't wake up fast enough. It's like we're dealing with freaking morons here, guys. Literally, we are dealing with a group of morons. And then you have the government sitting there saying, well, look, whatever violence you want to use, there are Palestinians out there. We got your back. You want to rape, burn, and pillage the town? Knock yourselves out. We're behind you. Whatever you do, you got perfect immunity. What could go wrong, right? But the reality is it's a mind war. They're trying to create the circumstances to where they will go after you literally, simply for you not obeying them. And that is a Jewish technique, 100%. There was something that came out of the ADL this week. Let me see if I can pull this up. And Jonathan Greenblatt. And he basically says straight up, he's warning the American people straight up. Let me find the story. There it is. He's warning the American people straight up. Look, we're coming after you.
So number one, we measure and track. Number two, we monitor and disrupt. We have a whole apparatus. I have 40 analysts working full time, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, monitoring extremists. We monitor.
Now, the problem with this, guys, is that an extremist, as we all know, is somebody that doesn't comply. An extremist is somebody that says, I'm not mad at you, dude. Go ahead. That's an extremist because you didn't comply. An extremist in the minds of the Jewish elite, if you want to break it apart a little bit, an extremist is somebody that doesn't want to follow the Jewish line of reasoning. An extremist says, you know what? We're tired of the way Jews run our society. It's just not working for us. You know, we think we should have our own right to our own self-determination without Jews. That's an extremist. Gee, you want the same thing Jews want for themselves, but you're the extremist. See, you know, he doesn't define the word for us. What he's really saying is that we will go after you if you do not listen to us and obey our totalitarian system. We will determine exactly what is happening now with the words. This is what we have to get to this mindset. It is not for jackasses. I know. I was told I was a little salty last week. Sorry about that. I went back and listened, and yeah, it was a little bit salty. Hey, I didn't use the actual word, but I kind of implied it all over the place. So our point here is that if Greenblatt uses the word extremist, what he's really saying is that you are an enemy of us on the Jewish side. That's really what he's saying. Who is he to say what is an extremist? He's a freaking Jew. He doesn't have the same logic we have. He doesn't have the same intellect. He doesn't have the same moral courage. He doesn't have anything to do with Western civilization. It's we Jews are in power right now. We're in power, and we are going to maintain that power. Man, I'm going out of a rumble too, aren't I? Man, they're going to ban me. But nonetheless, it's like, dude, who are you to come in and attack us in America? This isn't Israel. We're not a bunch of Palestinians. We understand that your buddy Trump is trying to make us into Palestinians. We get that Kristi Noem wants everybody to be a Palestinian. But it's like, it's not a very smart way to go. But then again, if MAGA sells the entire MAGA operation as, just comply and you won't die, then you got this guy in the background, because now you've taken MAGA out of the picture, and now you got more intellectual, let's say, voices out there raising concerns. And I'd like to ask this punk Greenblatt, would it Inside the Eye Live be considered extremist? Because we want self-determination, we want real democracy, we want a real republic. That's extremism. We want Jews to say, you know what? We want you non-Goyim or you Goyim to recognize our right to self-determination. And in return, we Jews are going to give you that exact same right. And if you guys want to kick us out of your country because you deserve your own right to self-determination, hey, I believe in that. Then okay, I'll support you, Greenblatt. Yeah, that's good. But if you want to tell us that you got 40 people spying on the American people, 40 people. You're basically an intelligence operation against the American people. You're saying it straight up. We don't give a, excuse the language, I'm careful this week. We don't care how you use the term. We're going to define the term. You use the term extremist against Americans, you're an enemy of the American people. Straight up. You don't determine for us what is an extremist or not. Because in your view, everybody who doesn't listen to Jews and obey the government and listen and just do whatever we Jews tell you to do, that's an extremist. Is that how you talk to adults? No, not generally, but it is how you talk to adults in the Jewish world. They think they're the high and mighty people. And you know why they think that? Because they've basically taken all your money, right? They own all your media. They pretty much influence your military. They train all of your police forces. They influence and write the laws that are used to enslave you even further, which means basically take away your rights. And then they want to label you an extremist. It's like, okay, what type of moron under these circumstances would even use the word unless you're just an idiotic Jew trying to now impose yourself on the American people? That is really, to me, a definition of an enemy of the American people. And furthermore, we're financing it. Hey, head on over to Rumble, everybody. We're going to start this new show called Perspectives, and we hope you're going to enjoy it over there equally. It's the Fetch. Inside the Eye Live, intelligent media for the politically aware. All right, everybody, welcome back. It is the Fetch Inside the Eye. All right, everybody, sorry about that. Welcome back. It's the Fetch Inside the Eye Live, intelligent media for the politically aware. Again, you were if you're over at the Rumble feed, you can go to Rumble. Look up Inside the Eye Live is the best way to do this right now, because I actually don't even really promote it outside of this radio show, which is a tribute because it's doing okay, you know. Relatively speaking, it's doing okay, actually. So hopefully you enjoyed just that little teaser, and that's going to actually run now through every single commercial. Hopefully I programmed everything correctly. It'll pick up just where it left off. So it's going to be like, Fetch, you're cutting away from that was interesting, Fetch. You're cutting away. And so, well, that's the whole point. We want to keep you with filling your time with something rather than dead air. So anyways, we were talking about MindWar. We were talking about Greenblatt and how he says he's got 40 people monitoring quote-unquote extremism. Again, it's not for these guys who don't understand the construct to be defining words for us. It is for us who actually understand the language and can not manipulate, but to, let's just say we understand the very foundation of the language. This is our language. It's not yours. You don't even understand how it works, dude. So why are you even using a word like extremism? And it has to get to a level where there is massive. Hold on here. It's just, you know, with Ling Ning, she's. Hello, sweetie. Hold on, but just she's getting tangled in the headphone cable, so it makes it kind of difficult, as you can see. Come on. Can you imagine trying to do a show like this every week? But lately, she's been even more crazy, to be honest with you. She's been very, very crazy. All right, you can stay. So basically, guys, I have to do the show now with one cat in my arms, literally. And she's just going to just sit here and listen to Dad do the show. So how cool is that? Anyways, my point here is that we really have to take back the language. It's partially why we're doing this piece with the ISISine codes during the commercials on Rumble, just to show you where we're coming from, why we have our views, and what we can do to understand better our own language. But let me carry on with some of what Greenblatt was saying when he says we will monitor social media, etc. See, here's the thing. How is it that a non-profit organization paid for by you, the taxpayer, remember, all of this money going to this guy is paid for by you because the people that are donating to this guy are getting tax deductions. So you're paying for it. You're literally getting, people are not paying taxes so they can fund this type of extremism. That's extremism. You're going to tell us that somehow you have access to our LLMs? How are you getting access? Why are we not having laws put in place that says, if this son of a you-know-what goes into our private discourses, then we have the right as a society to not just arrest this man directly, but put him away for life and all of his agents that are involved in spying on the American people. Because the real extreme is, if you're saying you're monitoring bank accounts, how is this not private information? You know what I mean? If you're going to tell us you're monitoring cryptocurrency, you're monitoring messaging apps, what level of national security do we have, really, when a Jewish guy can say that's what he can do? And he's like straight up with it. This is what we can do. We're going to monitor everything. Crypto accounts, messaging, LLMs, you name it. We're going to monitor. We are monitoring everything. And we're going to hand that over to, quote unquote, the government. Well, the government theoretically is us. So how is it that we're going to allow a Jewish organization to spy on all of us in all the ways you can imagine that the government can't even technically really do, because it would be a violation of our Fourth Amendment rights, right? And he's going to do all that, and then he's going to hand over that data to us, the government, which is us. So what he's really telling us is that, look, we own the government. Because why would he hand all this data over to me and you if the government belonged to me and you? See, so it doesn't belong to us. It belongs to somebody else. Does anybody really believe that, though? Do you know what I mean? So basically, he's running his own private intelligence operation, and then he has so much power, he can actually get the FBI to do his bidding. Now, this isn't unique because if you really think about what's been going on over the past decade or so, really the past 5 to 7 years, how many people who came on to Inside the Eye Live were hounded by the campaign against anti-Semitism? Jess Turner, Graham Hart, Alison Chabot, all of these, and I'm sure there's more, but these are some for sure. And it's like, what we're finding is that within our own countries, Jews are running their own country, their own intelligence networks. When it comes to the guns, they hand it over to people that they, basically get you to fund. They use them to cover up their own crimes. But imagine, do you really believe that? All the bullshit, he's putting out there? Or is this simply just a way to start to try to intimidate us? But it's not even that. It's like, dude, you're admitting to us that you are an actual scumbag of the highest order? Because he's in his own mind, whatever he disagrees with is extremism. He likes chocolate cake. You like banana pudding. That's extremism. Seriously, that's dead. That's extremism. You want corned beef with mustard? That's extremism because it's supposed to be pastrami with pepper mustard. Who are you to want corned beef? What's this? You can't have corned beef. We need pastrami. Are you extremist or what? What's this with the banana bread? I mean, you're supposed to eat gefilte fish and matzah bread. What's the matter with you? You're an extremist, aren't you? Do you worship us Jews? You don't? Well, you're an extremist. See, it's so vague. Where does the law, where does his mind even stop? See, again, listen, that's just crime. That's just petty crime. It's petty crime. First of all, you have to be kind of a pretty much of an idiot to go into a house of worship and destroy it. Oh, wait a minute, that's Jewish behavior. How many times do we see Jews going in to churches in Palestine and not even bothering? They just drop a 2,000-pound bomb 50 meters away, 50 yards away, and all the ancient glasses get blown out. I mean, okay, that was pretty extreme. To drop a 50-pound, a 2-ton bomb, 50 yards, 50 meters from an old ancient Catholic church, that was pretty extreme. But to Jews, that's, again, it is extreme. And then he's complaining about 4 people going in and vandalizing. First of all, it's just crime. Leave it for what it is. That's crime. Why are you doing that anyways? Yeah, that's kind of stupid. No matter what you think, you don't go into a synagogue and vandalize it just because. What the hell? I mean, yeah, Jews are idiots. We agree with you. They're pretty much totalitarians. They hate humanity. They hate human life. They love themselves. They're so genius that even their own God kicks them all over the world. And then they want to find fault with us when we're angry with them. Hey, dudes, your own God doesn't like you, okay? You're quoted part of the diaspora because your God kicked you out, okay? Why should we treat you any different than your own God? It's like, come on, guys, just have a common sense discussion here about what's really going on. Your God doesn't like you. He kicked you out of your own land. Now you're with us. We don't like you either. We're not any different than your God. I mean, come on, man. Let's just have a real life discussion here. Jeez. But it's like they're playing up stupid petty crimes into this national security thing for Jews only. And then the FBI is jumping around. Man, if I'm in the FBI, I say, dude, take it to the local police. Shut the frick up. Seriously, go to the local police. This is not who are you? Get the hell out of our office. We don't jump to a bunch of frickin' Jews. But we don't have that type of guts there. We got people like Dan Bongino. My whole life is to protect Jews, to protect Israel. And Kash Patel, no. He killed himself, man. We saw the files. He killed himself. And Bongino, we saw the files. He killed himself. Yeah, it's just disgusting. In other words, if you have a voice and it's slightly outside of what Jews accept, they're monitoring you. Okay, take it to heart, guys. This is an extremist organization. We will define extremism. If you're going to get there and spy on quote unquote white supremacists, who the frick are you, you punk? You Jewish supremacist? This guy's a Jewish supremacist. You look at his fingers, he looks like he's from Satan himself. It's like, geez, who the hell is this? But these people are strange, guys, but they're very deadly. Yeah. See, there you go. He tells you straight up right there, we train 20,000 law enforcement a year. So do those law enforcement people work for you or do they work for the Jews? Common sense. They're working for Jewish people because they're, they're adopting Jewish tactics. So therefore they work and use their tactics. Let's just use common sense here. This isn't that difficult. I didn't go in and I can't go in. I can't do it while I'm doing a live stream, guys. I can't do that. I wanted to share with you maybe the screen capture, but I can't because I'm doing a live show. Oops. Next show I'll set it up. I promise. Next show we'll set it up. Okay. Let's see. Awesome. Not super awesome, but awesome. Finally the cat left, guys, but then she's just screaming at the door. Okay. Let's see. Where were we now? What else we want to cover today? We covered the MindWar. We've covered the ADL. We've covered the Mega Maga. You know what was kind of interesting? Try to get myself centered here. I heard Nick Fuentes again. Nick Fuentes is somebody that's clearly done a good job at getting the word out on a lot of various issues. But what I heard, he was like so ecstatic that this woman, this Miss Good Gal, was basically murdered by this ICE agent. And she's so excited. He's so excited. And, I'm like, dude, I guess that's the difference between a little bit of age and a little bit of youthfulness. It's like, Nick, if you can't see that this is a frickin' agenda and the end result is you, the end result is going to be you. You don't want your police force behaving this way, period. If you can't frickin' be professional, then you got a problem. I mean, the whole world now I can't say the whole world, but obviously being an expat, dealing with people from all over the world, Everyone right now just shakes their head. Everybody used to think very highly of Trump. And it was rather interesting because a lot of people found him to be pragmatic, smart, witty, intelligent. America first. They didn't like the America first, but they still respected him for it. And now he just seems like a geopolitical gangster. I mean, he's going head on 100%. He wants Greenland. I mean, he just wants Greenland. It's like, damn. And it's like you had Stephen Miller, who's another Jewish supremacist. And if you want to know a secret here, Jewish supremacists always attach themselves to the populist wings of the countries that they are essentially infiltrated into. And they do that, my guess would be, because they need you to have the same views as they have, which would be a nationalist Israel, a uniquely Jewish Israeli state, a state that where they can do whatever the hell they want, and the Palestinians aren't allowed to do anything, and they're just supposed to be victimized and exterminated, and it's all basically cowboys and Indians version 4.0. And the populists will buy into that a little bit because they want kind of like the same thing for their own countries. They want a country that is, uniquely their own, etc. But when you fuse yourself to this Jewish piece, what you don't understand is that they control the entire narrative of what's happening. The second that you go a little bit too far with your populism, they throw out this extremist point of view. They throw out this idea that you're radicalized, or whatever the terms they use, to justify whatever violence they want to do. And that really is what's happening out there in the real world. The Israeli, Jewish, whatever you want to call it, power structure is allowing the populism to exist within America and elsewhere. But it has to stay within the norms that they accept, not you. Because if you think about it, if you had a right to your own self-determination, then you would have a right to not have Jews in any positions of power. Now, do you really think Jews are going to stand for that? Now, if you go to Israel, do you think for a second that Jews are going to forfeit their right to their own self-determination? Do you think that they're going to import, like, let's say, 60,000 Pakistanis to come in, and the Pakistanis are now going to run Tel Aviv? They're going to run Jerusalem. They're going to run Eilat. They're going to run other important cities inside of Israel. Do you think they're going to do that? Of course they're not going to do that. But they're going to do that in your country. And the second you go against the fact that you don't like all these Pakistanis, like, raping the girls up in London and in the UK, well, now you're the extremist. And the MAGA people are like, and the populist people, and again, we're all populists. So, we believe in our own countries and our own cultures, etc. But a lot of them are too eager to fuse themselves to Israeli infiltration. And frankly, this is a huge problem here in the West. And if we can't get rid of this problem, then obviously our countries are going to be suffocated underneath Jewish, really, totalitarianism. This is Stephen Miller talking about Greenland and why it's so essential for America to just go ahead and just, take it. The reality is we Jews, we screwed up your country. You're broke. We don't know how to get out of the problem. We've got all your money, but we don't want to give it back to you. And so you're $37 trillion in debt. In debt to whom? Nobody talks about that, right? But you're $37 trillion in debt. So we need Greenland. We need the natural resources. But this is another Jewish supremacist, Stephen Miller. Again, he attaches himself to the populist wing of the Republican Party. He has massive influence on what happens in both national policy and domestic policy. But at the end of the day, he is your classic Jewish gangster extremist. Let me rewind that.
to control a territory, you have to be able to defend a territory, improve a territory, inhabit a territory. Denmark has failed on every single one of these tests. So they want us to spend hundreds of billions of dollars defending a territory for them that is 25% bigger than Alaska at 100% American expense. But they say, while we do this, it belongs 100% to Denmark. It's a raw deal. It's an unfair deal. And most importantly, it's unfair to the American taxpayer, who have subsidized all of Europe's defense for generations now. American dollars, American treasure, American blood, American ingenuity is what keeps Europe safe and the free world safe. And Donald Trump's insisting that we be respected, Sean.
You know, but you listen to how he goes off like this, and the fact of the matter is that's how the Americans wanted it. You know what I mean? That is how the Americans actually wanted it equally. They wanted to make sure that they could be lording over everything. And who are the Americans? The Americans are this Jewish elite. Understand this about the United States. When it comes to foreign policy, the Israeli bloc, the Jewish bloc in America, does not sacrifice or, let's say, compromise on running American foreign policy. And it's been that way since even, let's say, before the 1940s. Okay? The Israeli Jewish bloc will not compromise when it comes to running American foreign policy. Full stop. So whatever has happened over the past 40, 50, 60 years, it's because that's what the Jewish bloc wanted. It's not because everybody was taking advantage. No, that's what the Jewish bloc wanted. That's what American business wanted. They wanted to go ahead and put everybody under this docile framework that where the United States was going to be the king, the big daddy, and the rest of the world was going to have to just sit silent while America got to reap the benefits of its occupations all over the world. It wasn't free. All right? Germany, I don't know the funds. Somebody can go in and look for it, but Germany paid for that occupation. Japan pays for the occupation. Korea pays for the occupation. It's not like it's all free. And what America wants to do is because it wants to exert its let's say its influence. It's an island nation, so it's already isolated from the world. Somebody came to me today. In fact, they're from China, from a city called Xi'an, and young kid basically. You know, just a humble kid. So I picked him up at the airport, and he doesn't speak any English. I have earbuds, these time kettle earbuds that allows me to translate in real time. So we were actually having a conversation. He's asking me about America. Well, when's the last time you've been to America? I told him, well, actually, I've been to America. Last time was 2020. And I told him I go to China more than I go to America. And he found that a little confusing. I said, look, what you don't understand is America is isolated. If I live in Los Angeles, all right, guys, if I live in Los Angeles, I have to be in China, say, twice a year. I have to be in the Philippines. I have to be in France. I have to be in Dubai. I have to sometimes be in Turkey. I have to be in Milan, or let's say in Italy. So for me to get to any of these locations from Los Angeles, every freaking flight is 16, 20 hours. Literally, 16 to 20 hours. And we'll be right back right after this. Everybody. All right, everybody. Welcome back. It's The Fetch Inside the Eye Live. In intelligent media for the politically aware again. Coming to you. Let's see if I'm supposed to see anything here. I'm not watching too much of the notes here. No, I don't see that. Okay, I don't see anything. Okay, good. Looks like we're clear. All right, anyways, guys, it is The Fetch. We're coming to you live from Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. It is the night. It's just started here about an hour ago. They have their Joy Awards. And unfortunately, I'll configure the stream next time for the live stream over at Rumble so you can see some of this stuff. And but it's the Joy Awards. It's basically the Middle Eastern's Grammy Awards for music, and a lot of top talent here in the Middle East is here. It's quite, as you can imagine, being in Riyadh as part of Riyadh seasons. It's quite a extravagant. It's an extravagant event. Now, already this year, I think I saw the numbers. Riyadh seasons has brought in 10 million visitors to the kingdom since September, some ridiculously high number like that. So that's all really good stuff, if indeed that is the case. So I hope I'm not stepping on anybody. Okay, it doesn't look like I am. All right, that's good. All right. So you have, once again, Stephen Miller, we were talking about in the last segment, going after, this idea that we need Greenland. What they really need, folks, is raw material resources. Rare earths, they can't process it. They don't have the technology. China controls like 90% of the rare earth processing in the world. And so even if you steal it, doesn't matter. You don't know how to process it anyways. America, the problem with America, guys, as I see it, is this. And I'm going to mirror kind of where President Putin says. The problem with us in the West is it's not that Russia's going to go take over Greenland. It's not like China is going to take over Greenland, The real problem here in the West is that we have an elite, a political class, a administrative class. Their only interests are enriching themselves and gorging themselves at the public trough. Never is enough. They need more money. And so the problem isn't Russia. The problem isn't necessarily China, although China did play some dirty pool. I'll give Trump a little bit of credit there. But at the end of the day, what did America do with all of the savings it reaped from the early days of working with China? Nothing. Everything went into the hands of super greedy oligarchs who basically absconded with the funds. We didn't invest anything over the last 40 years in infrastructure. We haven't invested in rail traffic. Our airports are okay. They're not bad, but we haven't invested in ports per se. We haven't invested in anything in America. We've given away 20% of our GDP to people like Pfizer, Moderna, the Sacklers, who killed about 400,000 American people. So we've given and continued to give a lot of our wealth away to the biomedical terrorism, the basically terrorist organizations, which are called pharmaceutical companies. It is so bad in America. America is so drugged up that literally the fish are drugged up. You go to, if you catch fish up in your rivers, there's so much pharmaceutical chemicals in the water now that even the fish are basically drugged up. And it's a never-ending cycle. It's always, they just want more money. And you have to understand they hate life. I mean, these people actually hate life. I mean, who's going to go out there and target their own children to try to convince them that they're another gender just so they can mutilate that child, which, of course, is irreversible. And, what society does that? You know what I mean? And this is the elite class in America. We have hundreds of thousands of children disappear every year. Where do they go? And it's not the problem of China. It's not the problem of Russia. It's like the American political class doesn't know how to compete in the global stage. Everything you hear from America nowadays is if you don't do what we tell you to do, we're going to tariff you. Everything's about, okay, we're going to tariff you. If you don't agree with our policy about stealing Greenland, we're going to tariff you. It's all about nothing but threats. Threat here, threat there. It's like, do you guys know how to just do business, real business, where you sit down, you negotiate, you come to an agreement, you give, you take, and you try to give, and sometimes you give more than you have to because you don't want to take so much because it's a bad deal for the other side. You know, everything should be win-win. I've done that. You ever watch that show? I don't even know the name of the show, but I think it's called Pawn Shop. I'm not sure. Maybe it's not Pawn Shop, but you go to it's a show where people bring their rare items to the pawn shop in Las Vegas. And they say, okay, I got this nice guitar here, and it was my grandma's, and she was, married to this guy, and, this was played by who knows who 60 years ago. And the guy says, how much you want for it? She says, well, I'd be happy to take $4,000. Says, I'll tell you what, a buddy of mine, he's pretty sharp with these guitar stuff. Let me bring him in. He comes in, looks at it, says, wow. And then he says, how much is it worth? The guy says, well, this thing in the condition is worth $25,000. And then the guy that runs the pawn shop is like, well, do you still want the $4,000? And then I've seen him other times say, listen, I don't want to take advantage of people. This is worth a lot more than that. I'm not even going to go check. I'm going to pay you this much. Okay, you're asking for 3. I'm going to give you 9. You're underselling this thing. That's business. The problem is we don't see that in American foreign policy. It's all zero sum. At the end of the day, you're going to zero sum yourself to what? To zero. You took over Venezuela, but nobody wants the oil. It's going to cost $150 billion to go ahead and try to revive the oil industry. The oil's not that great, to be honest with you. It's very heavy, in sulfur. So it's very hard to crack. It's a very dirty type of oil. And so the oil company's like, yeah, but we're really not that interested. Okay, so you went into Venezuela. You made a complete idiot of yourself. You showed that you really don't care about people. You killed about 300 people just so you could take somebody hostage. Now, I'll give you credit. You did it maybe a little bit better than what you did to Gaddafi. But it was still the same trick. You took a foreign leader out. And people look at this like, what the frick, man? You put together a color revolution in Iran, for instance. Estimated that perhaps as many as 2,000 people have died. But the Russians come in, the Chinese come in. They shut down all the communications network, including Elon Musk's network, the Starlink network, and within a day and a half, the entire revolution that you are launching is crushed because it relies on information. It relies on the transfer of that information, of course. And if you shut down the information channels, then this whole idea of mind war that we were discussing at the start of the show starts to fall apart. And in many ways, we need to figure out how to shut down just like they shut us down. They deplatform us. They take away our bank accounts. They put us on no-fly lists. They do all kinds of things to people to make sure that you don't go outside of their little farm that they want to keep you on. You're just the animal. Stay on this farm. Don't go outside this fence. And if you do, well, you're going to pay a heavy price. And at some point, all of this gets very nauseating to the adults in the room because you can't do this forever. The adults in the room say enough's enough. Here we have these little punk-ass kids, excuse my language, guys, but we have these little punk kids telling us how to think, how to talk, what we have to do, what's in our own best interest. We don't have a choice in what is our best interest. And at the end of the day, how can we put up with these freaking idiots? And in many ways, the term idiot really does make sense. It's these people are just clueless. They're tone deaf. They are just so lustful for their own power, their own greed. It's like, at the end of the day, people are just, who wants to do business with this type of person? Because it just makes problems, And the sad part of all this is that when, they built the World Trade Center, for instance, the idea was that the business of America was business. And we had some of the best business people going around the world proselytizing, if it were, about America. And what America did in the last century was truly remarkable. I mean, nobody helped America do what they did, unless you want to throw in the alien angle. I mean, Americans accomplished everything on their own. But this was a different culture back then. It was essentially the European American culture that produced a lot of this. Does this mean it was exclusively European American? No. You know, and we recognize historically where there were cases. Whether it would be, you know, the cotton gin, I believe, was not American. It wasn't white. I don't even have the stories in my head. It's not part of, you know, I should, but I don't have it in my head. But we recognize it. You know, we're not here as a culture to diminish other people just because, but we're also not here to raise them up just because. In other words, we do believe in meritocracy. We do believe in making the world better. At least that was our old way. Now it's whine, complain, threaten, act on your threats, frankly, create wars, create strife. No negotiation. It's like, do you even know how to negotiate? Mr. Big, I know how to make a deal Trump. What deal has he really made? Hasn't solved anything from what we can see. He has no cards, frankly. He's trillions of dollars in debt. He does have a black ops technology that perhaps other countries don't have. But you can't bet on that. I mean, the Russians with their Orezhnik missile, they went after just, 2 weeks ago, and they took out a super large gas storage facility that actually appeared, if the story is correct, to be American-owned. So it's like, okay, you want to take our tankers? Okay, we'll take out your gas storage facility. You want to play this game, guys? Okay, let's play the game. And, of course, the Americans are looking at us like, well, you know, Russia is so prevalent up in the Arctic, and they're spending so much money in the Arctic. Well, you know, if you were intelligent and if you had a brain in the political sphere, you never had to cut your nose off, because the Russians were inviting you in the entire time to help them with the extraction of those resources. You could have basically learned a ton of information, knowledge that you could have kept for yourself. And no, you want to squander it for what? Some prancing guy, you know, with his dick out playing the piano, and he's supposed to be a comedian, and he's like the voice of the entire Ukrainian people. Okay, it's like, how do you redefine this term called idiocy? You literally have all the advantages in the world, and you cut yourself off from every advantage for what? Because the deep state, Monsanto, wants to control all that land in Ukraine, which is extremely fertile. In fact, it is literally one of the breadbaskets of the world. One of them. Russia's a breadbasket. America's a breadbasket. Zimbabwe used to be a breadbasket. And it's like, for what? What are you making all these problems for? You want Monsanto to control basically the seeds? Okay, well, guess what? Nobody wants that crap anymore. Nobody's looking to fill their gut with all this GMO crap that the Americans are offering. And it's, you know, part of American agriculture is like, well, they're not being fair to our farmers. Well, our farmers don't farm food. They farm GMO crap. So, okay, you can't fault people for not wanting your GMO crap. It's not even allowed in Russia. They're trying to keep themselves healthy. They're trying to address their demographic problem, their birth problem, their fertility rate. There was a proposal, I think, in the Duma maybe a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, where they were going to, like, after like 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock, the internet was going to be turned off. You know, something like that. They were going to force the internet to be turned off at like 11 o'clock or 11:30. And what was the logic behind that? Well, too many people are spending time on the internet. They're not spending time with each other. The women aren't with the men aren't with the women, and there's just no social life anymore between the sexes. Let's turn off the internet, and maybe we can bring everybody together again, and in the process, maybe the two sexes will understand what their real purpose is, and that is, of course, procreation, and they'll get back to procreating, and we can get our birth fertility rates back in order. Just that's actually how bad it's gotten out there. You know, I don't have any data in front of me, but I do know that the birth issue is going to be a huge issue. There was a story put out by this Nick Shirley guy. No, his name is Tyler Oliveira. He put out what they call a full-length documentary. I'm not sure how long it is. But did you know in America that there is an enclave in America, and 60% of the residents there. See, you're talking about the Somalis, right? Somali was a organized theft ring brought to you by the deep state. Somalis were the front end. But there is a enclave in New York where 60% of the residents are Jewish. Let's just not go back. It's a Jewish enclave. The enclave is Jewish. 60% of that enclave are on welfare. Of those 60% on welfare, the average children per woman is 7. See, while you're told to basically go out there and date someone of the opposite sex, or not the opposite sex, but mainly black on white for the most part, you're out there, and this was program we were all hit with going all the way back to the 70s and 80s. But you're taught to welcome strangers from other lands. You're taught to work hard, you know, don't start a family till you can support your family, have responsibility. And Jews in one of their main enclaves have 7 children per woman, per family, or at least per woman. And it's like you're paying for it because they're all on welfare. Yet they're going to sit there from their pulpit with all of their mass media. They're going to talk about Somalis. And you got a Nick Fuentes out there talking about the Somalis. But it's like, Nick, don't you get it, dude? Somalis is just like the bush. The root is the deep state that allowed it all to happen. How many of these people that were taken out of Somalia were taken out because they were a little bit, at least a percentage of them, they were antagonistic to the government in Somaliland or Somalia? I mean, how many? I mean, you know, you're sending all this money over there. There has to be a reason for it. So anyways, imagine that. That's a heck of a lot. So a lot of people in Europe are just amazed at what's happening because the violence that we see from the police force is just astounding. There was a European journalist who was witnessing a crime in America. The police came over, just started beating up the guy. The guy had like a MAGA hat on. Just started beating him up over the head, literally just beating him up, just bam, bam, whamming on him. Slams the girls onto the ground, literally slammed them to the ground, pulling on their hair. And they were standing with a sign on a bridge. Basically, that was the crime. They were basically standing with a sign. And how can you look at these people and say these are human? You know, human. It's difficult. And the problem is we don't have a good discussion about this. You look at those the police that were operating this video I was just watching, and okay, Greenblatt says he trains 20,000 of those officers. How many of those 20,000 go on to train other officers? So why should why should we not conclude then that what we're witnessing here is Jewish policing? So you could call it the Gazification of America. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's like America as a nation has lost control of so much of its inner structures. We don't have control of our media. We don't have control of our banking. We don't have control of our cultural organs, like would be Hollywood. We don't have control of our police forces. We don't have control of our foreign policy. We don't have control of pretty much anything. And you have Jewish people like Greenblatt saying, look, we monitor banking, we monitor crypto, we monitor SMS, we monitor pretty much everything, and then we send these dossiers over to the FBI. So obviously this is an internal spy organization, you know, and then they say that the policing we're witnessing is probably being done by and for and on behalf of Jewish people equally. And if you go through feeds like X, you can see it. Stu Peters, again, somebody that I like, he's come out and said here, he said the mass deportations are fake. Yeah, compared to what we saw here in the Middle East, yeah, I would say it was pretty fake. You know, here we were able to watch the Saudi government get rid of 400,000 people, Ethiopians, within really a very short period of time. We didn't hear all this headaches, and there definitely wasn't the violence you see on the streets in America. And what Stu Peters says is what we're saying. We don't need a bunch of IDF-trained feds on the streets of American cities harassing American citizens while deporting just about no one. And as I said last week, how in the hell are you going to be doing a deportation operation if your primary operation is to go out there, harass citizens because they might have a camera or they might be in the street? And you don't want to go around them. You want to just show how big, badass boss you are. So you're going to beat the hell out of her. Or worse, you're just going to shoot her. I heard that perhaps an autopsy report came out about this good woman. And in this report, it said she was shot like twice in the torso and once in the arm. Now, I'm not sure. Torso, maybe she could have been. But it just tells you they let her bleed out. Okay, that's intended execution then. And this is where people are seeing America going. It's the Fetch, Inside the Eye Line. Back with more right after this. Playing here behind the scenes, and I have no idea what the hell's going on. Where things are playing, where they're not playing. It's like, where the hell did that come from? I don't even know where that even went and how it got there. So anyways, guys, sorry about all that, but I'm just playing. It's live radio. What can I say? And yours truly is not 100% proficient in all this stuff, but hey, that was a lot of fun, huh? Maybe it wasn't for you. But I'm like, man, I'm puzzled here. Anyways, if you want, you can check us out here on the live stream on Rumble. I assume that stream is still going. I don't know for a fact, but I assume it is. I don't even see my Rumble screen even pulled up here anymore. There's Rumble. But anyways, Rumble, you can check it on Inside the Eye Live. Just go look for Inside the Eye Live, and that will get you in the door there. Also, the chat room is available at InsideTheEyeLive.com. That's InsideTheEyeLive.com. Click on the live chat button. Yeah, okay. And check that out. Now, we'll be watching, of course, over at Rumble. If we do see that we see a spike towards the end, we may actually add, if we see some spike there, maybe I add some more extra time for the live Rumble feed after the Inside the Eye Live show. We'll see how it all plays out. We're monitoring it to see how it goes. And again, it's didn't work out like planned. We hope to have a lot of interesting that sideshow for you, but I just can't get it to work. Anyways, somebody says they had a Professor Cats in college. I got cats everywhere here. You know, I got lots of cats here. Too many cats here. I got lots of cats here. I don't need a professor. So Flaming. Anyways, guys, check out the chat room inside the Ally. Telephone lines are, go ahead. We can open them at 1-213-401. Yeah, I don't know who's plotting against me, guys, but it's just not working. But anyways, 213. Excuse me. I'm watching cats. I watched my Professor Cats. Anyways, 213-401-2617. That's 1-213-401-2617. So, yeah, you know, this is not right. I don't care what you say. Some guy just bashed in the head by ice, fractures in his skull, can't sneeze, can't cough, says it's dangerous. There's no reason. There's honestly a lot of times there is no reason for this level of violence against American citizens. I just can't. Again, I don't know the circumstances, but if you are opposed to something, I don't see why that means that the ICE people can come in and blind you. In this case, they took a piece, a quarter, what was the size of basically a nickel of plastic, that shrapnel that was in his eye. Looks terrible. He is an activist. But it's like the idea that somehow this is how we should be treating our citizens. No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to go down that road. I don't want to see the IDF essentially policing our streets and treating us like we're all Palestinians. And I don't know, is this part of the plan? You know, you don't understand the Israelis until Trump showed you what they're really like. Oh, yeah, okay, so we're going to blind a percentage of our people. We're going to kill a percentage of people just so you can trust your plan and Trump can show us, as if we needed to be shown by the way of having somebody's eye taken out. You know, I can't, guys, I can't get into this. Yes, we want the illegals taken out of the country. But how are you going to take the illegals out of the country when you're doing this to your fellow American citizens? You're not. The bottom line is you're not. You're basically using the entire anti-immigration operation as an excuse or a cover to intimidate the American people. And frankly, if you're doing this to American citizens, well, you know, my hat's off to you for out there standing up against it, because it's not right. I don't care what these thugs say in the ICE department. You know, you just don't do this to people, period. You know. Anyways, yeah, I just don't get it. 40, you're complaining about Somalis, but we have 44,000 Jewish people, Hasidic people, that are basically on welfare with 7 children. And it's like, why? You know, where are you, Trump? You know, where are all the people? And these are your classic, kind of like your stereotypical Jews with the long beards, the beanie hats, the funny-looking hats, the hats that look like you just came out of Soviet Russia, you know, that type of thing. These are the ones that they say basically are the smelly Jews, frankly. Back in the day, you know, you'd call them smelly Jews because they just didn't take a bath. So, yeah, you know, to me, the main enemy, of course, inside the United States is, once again, is Jewish politics, Jewish politicians, etc. Trump is now dealing with the Starmer issue, you know, not Trump's. Tucker Carlson is now dealing with Starmer. We've been talking about Starmer for a lot of years. You know, the entire Jewish political system is corrupt. It's takes orders from the Israelis, if you want to call it that. Friends of Israel is what they call it inside of the UK. But Tucker's take on Starmer, he says, "You will never convince me, at gunpoint even, that Keir Starmer is making independent decisions about the future of Britain." I would agree. You know, Tucker goes on to say he's taking orders. Then the question is, who's giving them? Well, it's going to be people within the literally out. What would you say? The Friends of Israel. But this is another take.
So who is them? I mean, why, so
Tucker
clearly there is a very well organized, very well funded effort to eliminate the white population of Europe. I mean, because it is being eliminated and you're not allowed to notice it, you'll be punished by police and courts you pay for if you notice what's happening to your ancestors' homeland. So,
you know what's amazing to me is if you were with us during the Oracle days, okay, this is 2012 when Kyle Hunt, who went on to start Renegade Broadcasting, Renegade Tribune. We had a falling out, but it's just kind of silly in a way. But he came out with remember the Million Man March? That was like huge back in the day. You know, it kind of like, to his credit, it made national coverage. People say, well, it's national coverage, that means Kyle Hunt's a shill. But he was talking about this very same thing. Excuse me. And these were issues we were raising. If you go back to Santa Cruz, and I know we have listeners, some of you probably are still listening in Santa Cruz, if not now, but in the archives. And if you're listening, you might want to call in. Be kind of fun to hear your story. But Georgia Peach had a show twice a week in KSCO, which is a huge communist type area. And her show goes on to be #1 in the area. And she's using a lot of talking points from this show. And she's obviously doing her own spin on things. And she's, educating the audience in KSCO. She goes on to be #1. So we've been doing this type of work, guys, a really, really long time. Let's run out to the phones to the 715 area code. Hi. Welcome to Inside the Eye Live.
Hey, Fetch. This is Patrick in Wisconsin. Just wanted to let you know that you're not going out on Rev at the moment.
Really?
Just to let you know.
Well, I'm going out. I'm going live at Rumble, I guess. Let me check the.
Rumble's good. In the chat, they say it's good.
Well, see, it's so good you guys call because, I have so many buttons going on here. I bet you I'm going out now.
Yeah, no
so
worries.
Thanks for calling in and letting me know that Rev Radio is getting kind of like shafted there. So, anyways, welcome back, Fetch. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks to Patrick,
All right,
guys.
I'll let you go. God
Okay,
bless.
well, thanks for calling in. All right, well, there you go. See, they call in just say, Fetch, we can't hear you, man. That sucks when I do mistakes like that. I didn't even know I muted that. I didn't know I muted that. Okay, maybe another one's going to tell me here. Hi, welcome to Inside the Eye Live.
How about you? This is Southern Comfort. I want to let you know you've been silent for the last 15 minutes.
Oh, I'll tell you, man. You guys are just brutal to the Fetch right now. You guys are just brutal to me. I'm going to turn this into a comedy show if you guys keep calling me about this stuff because I just took a call and they said the exact same thing. But I bet you I'm going out now.
I don't know. I just came from there. And did you switch over to Rumble for any reason?
Yeah, to give the show a little bit bigger chance at getting a bigger audience because I think we've saturated.
Well, there's your problem right there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what did it right there. Those of us who are listening by phone, we can't follow into Rumble unless Rumble has a call-in listening line.
No. The issue is that I accidentally muted everything here, so it's I didn't even know I had you guys. Yeah, I didn't even know I muted you guys. It's like, hell, when did I mute that? I didn't know I muted that. It's like, shit, I didn't mute that, did I? So, anyways, yeah, that was why it was. All right, guys, I'm out. See y'all next week. What time is it? No, shit, I still got 45 minutes to go.
You got plenty of time more. You got 45 more.
I feel like
more minutes to go yet.
I feel like a complete nerd now. You know what I mean? A complete newbie.
I think it's only fair to say that since you spent 3 hours kicking and kicking and kicking, sometimes we can call in and kick too. You know that, don't you?
You know what's great about Inside the Eye Live, you guys, and if you're new to Inside the Eye Live, you know that one thing about Fetch is whatever the problem is, he'll fix it. And he always has problems.
That's
it's
correct.
Like he spends half his time being an engineer, but the show's good. You know what I mean? It's a good show. What can I do?
your show is always good, and your middle name is Problem, and
Yeah. See, I don't know. I didn't cut you off there, but you probably needed to be cut off.
you do an excellent job.
Well, anyways, we appreciate it, guys. Thanks for calling in. You're literally the second caller in a row to tell me I was muted. So, okay. Now I'm not muted.
I want to wish everybody who's listening right now, I would advise everybody to visit Israel, land of the Christ killers.
Yep. And that's not hurt from me, but yes, something like that. And
by the way, anti-Semitic is a disease. You catch it from Jews.
It really is. I'm not sure, we're going to go mainstream. But, I see so many people out there with messages that mirror what we were saying, getting such huge numbers. You know what I mean? And I'm like, damn, how'd you get 35,000? How'd you get 80,000? How'd you get 250,000 views for that? And I know they're very short, and I only do long-form radio. You know what I mean? It's all I do. I don't do shorts. I just do long-form radio. So you're never going to get 300,000 for a long-form radio show. But the talking points that we discuss here, it's everywhere. It's like, have you noticed? I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it's everywhere.
My last comment before I jump off real quick, Fetch, is this. Is that the only solution to the Gaza Middle Eastern nonsense is that all the lands are being stolen and taken by the Kosher Rat Pack must be returned to the Palestinians, and there's no other compromise. That's the end of it. It's the end of everything. Get them out of leadership positions.
All right. We hear you on that one. All right, man. Thanks for the call.
All right. Adios. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya. Bye. All right. That's 213-401-2617, everybody. That's 213-401-2617. I could actually get a UK number, but I'm afraid you guys in the UK would never call me. They'd be like, the campaign against anti-Semitism, they're listening right now, and if I call in, they'll track the number down. It actually is bad in the UK. So when you have Tucker Carlson speaking about what's going on in the UK with Keir Starmer and this idea of wiping out the white race, this is to me, it's welcome. Tucker, we're happy you're going to take over the message now because we've been bringing it for so many years. We're happy to see somebody else do it.
That's all just true. Yeah. What?
That's right.
Who is pushing this?
It's the question of all questions, right? But it seems
Jews. It's this isn't a hard question, but you see how in the world of media, people are still couching everything. Now you can say Jews. Now, how are we going to define the word, right? We're not going to accept Jewish definitions because Jewish definitions, they're so whacked out, they don't know what it means from day to day. But in a nutshell, Jews, anti-human forces. If you're an anti-human force, you're a Jew. If you're pro-human, you're not a Jew. Maybe that definition works. But it's that's the $1 million question. Who? It's come on, dude. Everybody involved in this is part of Israeli or Jewish interests.
That all of these leaders that we have, be it Keir Starmer, be it Ursula von der Leyen, be it Merz in Germany, be it Macron, they all follow the same playbook. They all say the same things, literally post the same things, in their communications to the outside world. They might focus on slightly different subjects here and there, but the agenda is the same everywhere. And it's the erosion, essentially, of our borders, of our nation states, of our heritages. Right. I don't have to tell you or your audience that. We all know it. The question is, who's behind it? Honestly, I don't know. I can't answer that question. But what I can tell you is that the people who are rolling out these agendas are doing it out in the open, in front of our faces, and they keep getting reelected. So I have made it my mission, at least, to talk about those people and target them specifically because they are the ones that are in front of us, rolling this out over and over and over again. But it's very difficult to say.
So I don't know that much about Merz. I don't know Macron. His reputation is smart, is clever, and cunning. as skilled politically. But I know a fair amount about Keir Starmer, and you will never convince me, at gunpoint even, that Keir Starmer is making independent decisions about the future of Britain. Just, you can't convince me of that. He's not adequate as a leader.
In other words, a Tucker Carlson is saying a Keir Starmer is inadequate. I'm saying they're freaking idiots. Okay, I'm just saying, look, let's just cut to the chase. The guy's an idiot. He's a dangerous idiot. He's not grotesquely idiot, but he's an idiot relative to how we view reality. The guy's a freaking moron. You have this girl, this woman that let me reverse that. You have this woman that Tucker is speaking to in that interview. Her name was Eva Wow, this is definitely not a German. This is not a Jewish name, right? Vlardingerbroek. I wish I could hear her say it. I bet you it's sexy if she says it. Vlardingerbroek. And she's been banned in the UK. She's been banned in the UK. You know what her crime was? She went after and criticized Keir Starmer. So do you see how dangerous these people are? They're not intelligent. They can't win in a fair fight. They can't win with intelligence. So what do? They use the instrument and power of the state to enforce their view. They're not winning from sheer skill, from rhetorical genius. There's nothing about these people that show me that they're clever, that they're intelligent. Not a Greenblatt, not even a Trump at this stage. I'm not buying into the 97.999463 degree chess game. He's a Zionist. He's all in for Israel. He takes orders from Israel in many cases. And we're just waiting now for him to try to get back into Iran, which he can't do. I mean, like, can you imagine Trump? The Iranians recently this week, let me shift gears over to the Iranian issue. Big problems in Iran. Cities are being taken over. It was a pretty big deal. But now the Iranian regime, government, whatever you want to refer to it, they have called on their supporters to come out and support the government. Millions of people are taking to the street. Millions of people. Now we have like maybe 60, 80, 100,000 people that were trying to overthrow the government. They intercepted, they intercepted a shipment of 60,000 weapons, largely blunt type instruments, knives, things of this nature that were intended for the rioters to cause whatever mayhem. We've got some pretty gruesome pictures in Iran where protesters were being attacked from behind. Hey, anybody here Mossad here? Anybody here ICE here? But nonetheless, they're attacking people from behind, cutting them with knives, with blunt instruments, beating them from behind. These aren't from the government. These are people like, the cowards that ran World War II, where the Russians will never talk about it. Why did you have so many dead people? Well, that's because you had the Ukrainian style. You had the waves of humans being sent forward, troops, and then you had anti-retreat legions behind, and if they tried to retreat, you gunned them down from behind. And then you're going to whine about the fact that you lost 25 million souls. Well, yeah, that's because your tactics were freaking stupid. You were cowards. You basically sent people to die. Stories coming out of Germany of German machine gunners going crazy because they just were gunning down waves and waves and waves and waves of Russians. Like, not just that it just never ended. It's like, but why are they doing this? Why are they just going in and allowing us to kill them so easily? Is there no humanity in the Russian people? The Germans couldn't understand it. It's like, why? They're like literally machine gunners going crazy because of the fact that they just were mowing down so many masses of human people. And it's like, okay. I don't even know what the hell my point was in all that, but it sounded like a fun story, didn't it? So what this girl did, this woman did, she called Keir Starmer an evil, despicable man for allowing migrant rape gangs to operate. That gets you banned now in the UK. And where are the Ukraine? Well, let's say where are the men in the UK, though? You know, and it's the same in America. You can't say that American men are any different. Wherever this evil, and it is an evil, sets up shop and brings with it its LGBTQ philosophy, this idea of anti-white hatred. How do you create a government that allows for a foreign entity to come in and rape, what, tens of thousands? I don't know how many women, young girls were raped in the UK. I think it's in the tens of thousands. How do you allow a foreign army to come in and do that to your people? Well, you're not of the people. You're a foreign occupying army yourself, or a foreign occupying entity yourself. And that really is the message we should be taking from all of these countries. And then you have people saying this. Well, okay, I'll be back with more right after this, folks. It's The Fetch Inside the Eye Live. Intelligent media for the politically aware. Still trying to get through the show here because, for whatever reason, actually, I'm not broadcasting from the studio because I have some lighting problems. So I came out to the front room, and this is where the cats hang out, frankly. So I've been surrounded with cats. Everybody, here's another one. Yeah. Hi. That's Tracy. What? Okay. So anyways, I've been like literally trying to do the show here all day with cats literally crawling up and down my legs all the time. You don't see that. You don't see like the concentration it takes to do like live radio with cats literally crawling all over you. But it's a lot of fun. You know what I mean? They make it a little bit lively for sure. So that's all good stuff. So what can I say? All right. Let's see. We're in the final half hour of the show. If we see a spike over at the Rumble, we're going to actually do probably an extra half-hour segment. But you gotta reward me, guys. You got to show up. So if you come over to there and we see a little spike there, we'll probably do a half-hour bonus for this week and put an extra half hour in. You know, they say that 4 hours in the radio business, you know, for political long talk is 4 hours. You know, Rush Limbaugh, people like that used to do that type of show. So for the most part, I should wear a cap. I should get a cap on, you know. Anyways, it is what it is. I like to monitor my voice and hear my voice, so it's like I need my headphones just to feel comfortable. But nonetheless, guys, we hope you're having a great time out there, that you've obviously, thanks for coming in. Listen, InsideTheEyeLive.com. That's InsideTheEyeLive.com. Click on the live chat button. That will get you in the door there. Again, Rumble Inside the Eye Live. That's Rumble Inside the Eye Live. And just search for that channel, and that will hopefully get you in the door there. So we're doing okay with the Rumble feed. What's really been impressive is the, let's just say the watch time. You know, you guys really, we're at an elite level, frankly. The show's at an elite level. No doubt about it. So that's a big thanks to you guys out for there. So that's what's encouraged me actually to keep doing the video feed, simply because it has been doing so very, very well in the, not just the live show. I mean, we don't have a lot of followers. Thanks you for the two guys that joined today. You know, we don't have a big following, as you can see, but it grows. It grows. And we've been doing this for so long. Let's be honest, guys. We've been doing Inside the Eye Live and live radio for so long. We're not like newbies in this whole affair. But if you can imagine, you know, going back to this woman, you have this Vix. Who knows who this Vix is? He says, imagine speaking in a country you are not a citizen of just for clout. If she is banned, I hope she stays banned. Stay the F out of the UK. Does that sound like a British person to you, or does that sound like a Jewish person to you? Sounds like a very Jewish person to me. May not be, but maybe, there's something wrong with this person for sure. So imagine being in the UK and you're so freaking prima donna and so, I don't know, triggered. You can't hear any external criticism what's going on in the UK. What a flaky person that's got to be, right? Can you imagine me? Honestly, can you imagine me criticizing you if you criticize the United States? In any way. Can you imagine me being such a weak, just a weak, wimpish person that I couldn't handle criticism? Really? At this stage, really? And if you're a politician and unless you're like in the public eye, you can't handle, you're going to start banning people because of what they say. You're going to keep them out of your country. And this is a real problem, by the way. Because what's happening is that, excuse me, politicians, policymakers, they're deciding for the country what people can say, who's going to be allowed, who's not going to be allowed. And in reality, those decisions affect the entire country. So you have individuals making decisions on behalf of a country as if it's their country. So I'll tell you what, if you ban people from the UK for things like this, guess what happens? People aren't going to come to the UK. That's money, jobs, tourism, hotels. Now, you don't need to fill your hotels. I understand that. Your politicians just import more and more third world people from their boat, can we call it a boat brigade or their boat navy? I don't know what you want to call that. Maybe the boat brigade. So I know you don't need more hotel people because you're filling it up with all the illegals. Okay, so I get that. So maybe you don't care about your hotels being filled up and the occupancy rates. They're already filled up. But can you imagine policymakers making this decision on behalf of the entire country? I don't even see how this would be permissible, if you want to know what I mean. How can you have literally individuals making this type of decision? Now, we don't know how these decisions ultimately get made. That would be something okay. That would be something that we have to research. Apparently, Tucker, as I didn't play the whole interview, and I'm not going to, but because it's very long. But apparently, she just wouldn't say anything about Jews or Zionists. She just won't even go down that road. Perhaps she's still traumatized. I'm not sure. So yeah, interesting stuff. It keeps coming on. Like Elon Musk says, most of the politicians are just the actors on the stage. You don't see the scriptwriters, directors, and producers who control them. That's so true. So here's something. Posobiec is a big influence in America. You could call him a MAGA guy. And the problem with the United States is they gave away the country, meaning the policymakers. They gave it away. If you were an Indian person or Sri Lanka or somebody from Southeast Asia, Pakistan, and you wanted to own a motel in America, there was money available for you. You could come in, get government funding, and you could buy out what was essentially a mom and pop operation owned by what would have been a white family back in the day, and you could just buy these things up. The white person gets displaced. Eventually their money gets used up. Their power is lost, and now you have a whole new block in there. So you had Indians, Pakistanis, a lot of Southeast Asians coming into America. They were provided with small business loans, literally to buy up these small mom and pop convenience type of operations, whether it was a gas station, a convenience store, 7-Elevens, motels, not the hotels, but the motels, the simple family owner operated type operations. So what happened is that within, 5, 10, 12, 15 years, white America no longer owns that part of America anymore. It's actually taken over by foreign elements, and it was all financed by the U.S. taxpayer. In many cases, the real issue then becomes, how do you win something like that back? You really can't. It's you could, I guess, but it's very challenging to do so. In a way, it's like America gave away their country. And who were these people? See, that's the whole thing. It's all being done vis-a-vis the administrative state. And you could talk about Trump and this, and you could talk about MAGA that, but ultimately, if you don't deal with the deep state or the administrative state, it's going to be really hard to do anything to affect change in America. There's a issue in America. It's like, how do we get people to get self-deported out of America? Well, it's very hard, because if the CEOs are hiring a lot of the illegal labor or pushing for policies, especially for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, to bring in all of this cheap labor, including from Somalia, it's really hard. So the struggles we see in America are so broad in tasks, I guess, that would have to be resolved. So what do? Do we go in and we arrest the CEOs? Do we target the policyholders that are making the policy? Do we cut off funding to cities and counties? Even here in Saudi, recently there was a case in Saudi where a woman did die. She was denied I don't want to say she died, but I believe that was the story. That she had died, or something very serious happened, and she was denied medical care. And because she wasn't legal here, they denied her medical care. And it was taken to the local style courts here, and the courts here determined that when it came to medical care, even in Saudi, the state must pay the bills. And I think it was a case where she had some problems and surgeries, I forget, but it was a fairly extensive bill, and eventually the state had to pay. And that was the courts here. So there is the humanitarian issue about really serious health issues. There's just something about it. It's like on the high seas, when a ship calls out a mayday, the rules of the sea say that no matter what the costs are, you go out and you go get the person that is calling for the mayday. You just can't leave them stranded to die. And the same would hold true for, let's say, healthcare. But how about the job market? How about the rental market? These types of issues are all key issues to consider in America. People are saying here that rioters in Minnesota are pouring buckets of water right outside the driveway of ICE Minneapolis in order to make agents slip and fall when they're attempting to make arrests. Then they're like, this is disgusting. These degenerates are getting away with way too much. Yeah, I agree. You just start shooting them, right, guys? It's when you're shooting people, treating people like crap, you're going to obviously not get a lot of sympathy, with all due respect. Here's a case here. We have a video of a case in America where they are actually complying. You know what I mean? In America, they say, well, if you don't comply, if you comply, you won't die. So here's a case of somebody actually complying. And basically just protecting your rights. I don't know who you are. Who are you? Why did you legally stop me? You don't have an authority to stop me. See, the question now is that, is the ICE operation in America so incompetent? I mean, literally, it's so incompetent that they don't know how to do it without violating everybody's rights. And because they're so incompetent, stupid would be a way to look at it. Are we supposed to give up our rights to protect the fact that they're stupid and incompetent? And Americans, they're not having a real, I don't see the big discussion yet about this. Are you going to give your rights away because the people you have in charge of an operation that we all want to see go down are so stupid and incompetent, the only way they can operate is through violating your rights? Is that what, is that where America wants to go? I mean, what is the hell's the matter with you people in America, frankly? Why don't we have more citizens calling up? Maybe it's going on. But these agents here, if they don't have an arrest warrant, they can't just sit there and start taking you out. Who are you? This is, again, who are you? Since when did America become so rah that you could have an ICE agent who may not even be an agent at all, for all we know? Maybe he's once again a mercenary, just stopping people on the streets, ordering you out of your car. Like, who the hell are you? Seriously, who are you? And Americans are like, yeah, rah, yeah, we need to be tougher. This is disgusting. But there's no talk about how, the losses being incurred on the rights of the American people. None whatsoever. It's like, what the hell? I just don't get it. I don't get it. Scott Adams. Did Scott Adams die? I didn't know he had died. Scott Adams is, it says rest in peace, Scott Adams. Wow. He was often broadcasting on Rumble.
Israel. But if I want to know the full list of what I'm not supposed to fucking say. And I'm going to say everything on that fucking list every day.
Oh, this is the guy I think
behind. Give me the fucking list of what I'm not supposed to.
Yeah, he's cussing. I'm sorry, he does too much of that here. But he's the guy behind Dilbert. I believe he was Dilbert, right? Yeah, he's saying, look, just give me a list of what I'm not supposed to say then. All you frickin' people, seriously, all you people in the Jewish community, the ADLs, the Greenblatts, the Trumps, the Neoms, the, I don't know, Christine Levitz, all you people, Bongino, everybody that wants to support Israel, why don't you give us a list of what we are and aren't supposed to say? And the guy behind Dilbert, I remember him coming out with this now that you mention it. He said, look, tell me what I'm not supposed to say. Now, he does so much cussing here that I kind of like hesitant to play it.
Say about Israel, about what I'm not supposed to say about Jews, and you make that illegal, I'm going to say it every fucking day. And I am anti-Israel, period. I am fucking anti-Israel. Because the ADL, I know the ADL doesn't work for Israel, but if Israel doesn't shut their fucking dog down, which is the ADL, their little attack dog, they can shut them down tomorrow. Shut them the fuck down. I can't have the ADL and this law at the same time. I cannot have the ADL in business accusing people of being Holocaust deniers with this particular system. Fuck Israel. Fuck Israel. Fuck the ADL.
Yeah, I mean, he just goes on and on, but he's saying, look, at the end of the day, if you're an American, okay, an American, and I'll try to keep it clean here, how is it that you can be a tough guy, right? I don't know if I want to use that term, but how can you even be grounded in your own cultural morality and ethics, and you are permissive of a people like an ADL literally saying, we're watching everything about you. We know every private detail. We are spying on you in ways you can't even imagine. And then we're going to give all this data to the FBI, who are going to do our bidding for us. How is it you can look at the ADL, and then the ADL is not just the ADL. The ADL is a huge, let's just say, it's the voice of a huge base of Jewish society in America. The ADL doesn't exist in a vacuum. All that money it gets doesn't come from just you, the taxpayer. I mean, it does because the donations are tax deductible. But nonetheless, they're raising hundreds of millions of dollars to do what? To spy on you, and you're paying for it, and you're like saying, "Oh, this is okay. We don't want to be anti-Semitic." And it's like, no. Now they're 20,000 goons are out there just accosting people on the streets. Get out of the car. Excuse me, you got a warrant. Dude, and it doesn't matter even if you comply. Because they're ADL agents. And for all you know, maybe they're supervisors, an ADL officer sitting in the back room somewhere. Did you treat the Goyim just right? Did you beat the hell out of them? Because we told you, the Goyim are animals. The Goyim don't listen. You got to be tough with the Goyim. You got to beat the hell out of them. So let me explain this very clearly to you, okay?
Our core purpose has never changed. Our core purpose is really, really simple. It is to protect the Jewish people. And so I don't care whether you're secular or observant. I don't care whether you vote Republican or Democrat. I don't care whether you keep kosher or you don't know what that even means. I don't care if you live in, the Upper East Side or like Lower Patagonia or the Middle East or wherever. My job, our job at ADL is unswerving. From the time I wake up in the morning to the time I put my head on the pillow at night, the only thing that's driving me is that core purpose: protect the Jewish people.
Now,
that's it.
Let me ask you a very...
has never changed. Our core purpose is really...
So the question then really becomes, if the Jewish people at their elite level, the ADL, their core purpose is to screw you, the American people, if it means protecting the Jewish people, they will trounce on your rights. They will trounce on your liberties. They will spy on you. They will they will destroy your reputation if necessary. They will work to debank you. Whatever is necessary to, quote unquote, protect the Jewish people is fair game to these people. And they've been doing it and proving it and showing you for decades now. And yet somehow nobody, I won't say nobody, but we don't have a mechanism to push back against this. I mean, they brag about buying their politicians. All our politicians are owned by them. They brag about how all the police are trained by them. We watch the streets and we see how brutally violent the police have become. And Americans, they're a funny breed. Americans at the core, their heart wants to support their police force. You know what I mean? The police, they just want to, out of their hearts, support the police. A lot of Americans are law-abiding, God-fearing type of people, and they want to support their local police forces. But they don't have an ability yet to grasp that what they believe is a local police force is not even a local police force anymore. It's an ADL-controlled force. It's controlled by a foreign government. It is trained by a foreign government. And that foreign government utilizes the ADL. And what does he say? Our core role is to protect the Jewish people. So do you really think that all this violence you see happening on the streets isn't going to be eventually more tinctured or pointedly aimed at anti-Semites, that they get to determine in their own mind what an anti-Semite is? And then they want to sit there and have you go to war against Iran? And you're going to go to war against Iran for what? Because the regime is totalitarian? What the hell do you call what's happening in America today? How is the ADL any better than what they claim that the mullahs in Iran are? Can you vote about the ADL? Can you say anything about the ADL? Can you say anything about Jews without having this violent extremist organization like the ADL coming after you, including using the powers of the police? Think about it, everybody. It's going to be a very difficult year at the rate we see things starting off here in 2026. It's the Fetch, everybody. Thanks for listening over at Rev Radio. We appreciate it. Back. We will continue. Let's take a look after this. But to you over there at Discord, good night. All right, everybody. We are still streaming. I believe over at Rumble. I don't think we've cut the feed yet. Let's take a look. How we doing over there? And how we doing, first of all? Not such a great thing. All right. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening here on Rumble. We certainly do appreciate everything. And let's take one last look. And actually, yes, we did. All right. We are still broadcasting live on Rumble, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to come back after the break. I'm going to take just a 3-minute break, 3 minutes, roughly, just to get something to drink and try to get my lungs back. And we're going to do a half-hour, 1.5 hour bonus show right here on the Rumble Network. So tell your people, Fetch is going another half hour. And we'll be back literally just in about 2.5 minutes. So back with more right after this.